Hello, what is up ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the one and only Maxi here, and I am back for some more of yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Wario Land 2 for the Game Boy / Game Boy Color. So last time we have pretty much gone through the forms of the alternative chapter 2, which pretty much leads us to the second ending of the game. So overall, that was actually kind of a short playthrough, at least if you're about to be doing that route. But regardless of everything else though, there's still more things to come. So because of this, today for this episode is the fact that we're about to be getting things started with another alternative chapter, but this time it's going to take place in the forms of, well, let's just say we're trying to find a secret exit in chapter 1 in, well, story 5, which meaning that we have to defeat the giant snake. But in order able to actually get to the forms of the secret exit in this level, rather than just trying to fight against with the giant snake itself, instead we have to lose the fight, or there's also another alternative pathway you can take, but I'll discuss more about that whenever we get into it. In fact, I just got caught by the zombie right there, so that seems kind of underwhelming, but at least on the upside is though is the fact that I just have to collect coins. That's all I have to do. So basically we ended up on the familiar location, which appears to be a giant snake battle. So you have to lose this fight, and then basically if you manage to get eaten by the giant snake, you somehow turn into an egg. Ugh, gross. Anyway, and then basically you go up there, and then rather than just taking into the bottom route or the left route, so instead we need to find ourselves a well-hidden cracked wall to break. And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, before I do that, I need to collect more coins just in case for, well, you know what I mean, bonus games and all that stuff, including some treasures that we need to collect, and slide down all the way over there, and that's how you find the secret exit. So because of that, welcome to the another alternative chapter 2. So this means that chapter 2 does have 3 different chapter 2s in this game. So like one we already gone through from the last video, and the other one which we've already gone through ever since the beginning of June. And here we are again, but this time around though takes place in a different location. So because of that, yeah, the story pretty much exactly the same as the default of how it does it on the regular chapter 2, except now that we're going to be going on to, as I said before, a different location. So because of that though, once again these Captain Syrup's minions were about to able to go ahead and steal Wario's treasure again. And this time they're about to go into this little hole, and then while at it though, Wario's about to follow them and trying to, you know, receive their money back. Or certain treasures if you say so. Chapter 2, go to the cellar, and story 1 is to defeat the giant spearman. Again. Oh jeez, there's gonna be a lot of times that we might able to actually just try to fight against with giant spearman again. So believe me, whenever we get onto the future chapters in between, basically there's gonna be a lot of emphasis on that. So I digress. So here we are in the forms of the cellar. So either way though, in this case the another alternative chapter 2. So yeah, things will be pretty much expected by this point. So either way though, we'll go ahead and try to grab some treasures and all the other jazz. So that should be likely highly doubtful anyway. So anyway though, a few things I want to explain, and that is the fact that obviously today's day is of course the 16th of June today, in this case in 2021, and we're literally on the halfway point now on June. So because of that, and we're pretty much almost at the halfway point in 2021. So it looks like so far so good anyway, even though there are some downsides, which I'll point them right away right now. Unfortunately though, that the restrictions, the lockdown restrictions in the UK is delayed until like next month, which is about 3 days before, or 3 days after I should say, the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD will be releasing. So because of that, yeah, we have to wait for a bit longer until we get ourselves our true freedom. So we're almost there for this point guys. At least I was still in UK though. I don't know about the American or any other regions out there, but let me know in the comments. So, excuse me, I've got something in my throat there, I do apologize for that. And, Also, that you've noticed right from the start though is the fact that ever since during the forms of yesterday, do you remember how Sonic has mentioned about the forms of E3 announcements yesterday? Well, I was so excited when it comes to the forms of Nintendo Direct yesterday. And I will say though, that is probably the best Nintendo Direct E3 by far to me though. That's, well, it would still apply for the forms of 2019, but 2019 is quite close. But I will say this right now. E3 2021 is the best E3 conference for the sake of the whole year. Well, at least to be more specifically with the most recent Nintendo Direct, including the forms of the Treehouse Live, which I'll discuss on that later. But yeah, let's get to the actual discussion about the forms of what games do they announce for the sake of the forms of any other video game companies out there. Although sure, there might be still more coming up, most notably for EA and all that stuff. But the ones we're gonna have to talk about right now is, let's start with the Ubisoft one first. First of all, because of how the fact that usually Ubisoft Forward does manage to take place in June the 12th, so that seems totally obvious. And several games have been announced during the forms of Ubisoft Forward. So some of them, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I think it's more accurately trying to expand the forms of DLC for that game, and also Rocksmith Plus, and also they announced Riders Republic, and also they announced another Just Dance game, but this time around Just Dance 2022. So how many versions that we might get for Just Dance every now and then? I know it's kind of popular every now and then, but I just have no idea why they keep on spanning some more sequels here and there. But that's besides the point. And also they've mentioned Tom Soonery's Rainbow Six Extraction and Rainbow Six Search. And also they've mentioned Far Cry 6. And also Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And the one game I was really excited about when it comes to Ubisoft Forward. That's what appears to be the new sequel in terms of the forms of the Mario plus Rabbids series of games. Like, as far as that point, that's, although I still haven't really 100% everything in Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle yet, but I will plan to get back into that at some point, even though I'm still stuck on these, harder, like, puzzles or harder battles and all that stuff, which, due to the forms of strategy errors and all that stuff, which that might be seems the case in my book. But hopefully I'll get back into that game at some point. But, anyway, the new game for Mario plus Rabbids is going to be called Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. And, once again, it's going to be exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, because obviously Mario is a Nintendo character, of course. And I'm going to say, I was pretty excited about that game than the forms of how it does it from, well, any other Ubisoft games that has been announced in Ubisoft Forward. Mainly it's because, obviously, I do enjoy Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, despite I'm pretty much stuck on certain things. But, aside from that, I was pretty dang hyped about the forms of how the next game is going to take place. And as far as I'm aware, it does manage to take place into outer space this time, which it does appears to be outer space in a galaxy, which, because of that, they managed to able to introduce into ourselves new characters, although they still retained returning characters from the first game, mainly Mario, Luigi, Peach, Rabbid Mario, Rabbid Luigi, and of course Rabbid Peach. And I've no idea why they didn't able to actually show off Rabbid Yoshi or Yoshi himself this time around. Or maybe it's because they're trying to focusing on galaxy themes this time around or something. I have no idea. But regardless of such though, we got some new characters at least, mainly with like, let's just say Rabbid Rosalina, which I think is actually pretty cool. And also this new types of characters that I don't even know about. And even especially noticeable with the forms of those Luma-like Rabbids, which are named Sparks, by the way. So even then, though, gets the hint of the title, Sparks of Hope. So yeah, that's actually pretty swell and pretty exciting at the same time. Even though, and as far as what I've seen the gameplay footage of the game, it remains exactly the same as the first game, except I think they might able to add in new moves and new weapons at the same time. And also, I'm presuming that rather than just trying to doing with the, you know, with the battle system, well, basically, I'm pretty sure they were able to do something completely different this time, mainly due to the fact that rather than trying to deal with the forms of grid-based stuff, as opposed to the ones in the original, that you have to do with grid-based, whilst the new forms of the second game, Sparks of Hope, is now going to be utilizing new forms of freedom movements. So yeah, that seems pretty cool and interesting at the same time. So yeah, at least I'm still really excited for that. And the release date for that game is going to due out until next year in 2022. You know, just like New Forms of Hope does on the first game, I mean, usually it makes sense because obviously the first game will be almost become 4 years old this year, but then until next August, in the sake of next year, the game will be 5 years old by that time. So even then though, yeah, I'm very hyped about that, especially notable how the fact that, well, despite the fact that the first game didn't sell as much as far as I was hyped, but at the very least they're able to give the series a second chance with the second game in the series. So, and also as far as what I've heard, they're able to bring DLC to the table, but we'll have to wait and see what happens until 2022, I'm pretty sure. So either way, what's this? I think this is number 9, so yeah, I can definitely tell from that little familiar number right there. So we'll select 9, and boom, there we go. So I think that the Ubisoft Forward is alright. I mean, usually it's not the best, but I'm pretty sure that some people complain about the forms of how the fact that I think Far Cry 6 might able to actually be like, kind of feels a bit rough. Actually, I'll get into more on that later. Story 2, Avoid the Rocks. And in this level in particular is the fact that we now stumbled across the forms of small rocks and huge rocks. And I believe if a small rock decides able to show up, then if you try to stand underneath it while the small rock shows up, basically what happens is that you can able to grab that as a projectile. And then as far as I'm aware, that the bigger ones, like I'll show this to you just about, well, as soon as we get to the next section, like, oh yeah, we do need, yeah, right there, if you get flattened by that huge rock, you become flat Wario. So because of that, yeah, you might able to actually find a drip to able to actually return back to its normal size. So, yeah, you probably get the gist of it. So, anyway. And, yeah, as I said before, I think the Ubisoft Forward is alright. I mean, the biggest highlight for me is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I keep on saying about the forms of the second game of the Kingdom Battle series, but turns out it's a different name after all. So, yeah, I'm still excited for that. So, and that will come out, as I said, in 2022, around the same year as Splatoon 3. So yeah, I was quite surprised about that. And next up I'm going to be mentioning is the Gearbox software. Even though there's not much right to hum about, besides the fact that I wasn't watching those specific presentations like this, although it does manage to announce new stuff from the likes of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Godfall, and also Homeworld 3, Tribes of Midgrade, and a look at Borderlands movie. That's actually kind of interesting, because I'm very curious to see how that's going to turn out. Oh yeah, another thing I just want to point out, in regards to the forms of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, I will say, the visuals look amazing. Like, literally twice as amazing as the forms of how it does it for the majority of those Ubisoft stuff. Although, don't get me wrong, I'm still hyped for Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, don't get me wrong. But the fact of the matter is, though, is that the Avatar game coming up, oh man, the visuals do look really outstanding. Even though I might not gonna get it personally, because I'm more into the forms of other franchises, as far as I've already noticed from the time. So, anyway, let's get into the next discussion, and that is the forms of the, well, let's just say, let's get into the Microsoft one next. The Microsoft is pretty good. I mean, usually not my interest, but regardless of such, we still got some other information on certain games, namely with like Starfield and Stalker 2, Back 4 Blood, and Contraband, and also Sea of Thieves, which actually turns out they did manage to able to include something very special indeed. That is something to do with the forms of, well, the game is still made by Rareware, of course, but it turns out that they did manage to able to, I would say, it includes like, some DLC, like a free expansion called A Pirate's Life, which is actually based off from the Pirates of the Caribbean series, and that was about to due out until specifically, well, I would say the next 6 days, so it won't be taking that long to able to launch that. So I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be exclusively to Xbox One, or Xbox Series X, but I'll find out until when free expansion DLC will be releasing, so... Unfortunately though, no sign for the new Banjo-Kazooie game, which is pretty obvious because of the forms of, well, at least we got ourselves a fighter from the Super Smash Bros. Game, of course, so at least that's that, so, but that was in 2019, so, and another game they did show off is Battlefield 2042, and 12 minutes, and Psychonauts 2, which finally gets its release date for that game, and it's about to due out until this August, in this case, August 25th for this year, so it's gonna come out in, oh, I just realized, it's still coming on Xbox One, which is pretty obvious, and also Xbox Series X/S, and also PS4 and Microsoft Windows. Still no sign of the Switch release, but that's okay, because either way though, we'll get into the most exciting part until, well, as far as when I'll mention more about that until the next part or something, if depending on time, but we'll see what happens there, so either way. Yeah, it's just that this level you're gonna have to get a lot of usage on the forms of using those rocks as projectiles, so that way you can able to, like, break some of these enemy-like blocks, as you can see, if you really want to grab the rest of those remaining coins and all that stuff, even though that you have to be very cautious not to get crushed by the forms of the huge rocks, as you can see, so, yeah, the end of the level is just right there, just on the right, basically, so either way, though, booyah! And I'm quite surprised about the fact that we actually went breezily for this particular chapter for almost like few seconds notice. Well, sometimes there's gonna be still a lot of exploration involved for collecting coins here and there. So, yeah, you probably get the suggestion. I think this is 4. Yeah, it's definitely 4, because I can see that familiar black lines for the sake of that number. So, yeah, that's definitely number 4. So yeah, anyway, the next game they did mention, and that is the forms of Fallout 76, despite it's controversial, but I'm guessing if I recall correctly, actually to be honest with you, there's not much else details about that, well aside from like, that game does have a lot of bombed reviews and all that stuff, so anyway, Story 3, Stop That Train. Well, it looks like we're going back into a train level ever since I think the last time we went to the train level is in Chapter 4. So technically, if for those of you if you ever go to this pathway for the first time, in that particular chapter structure, this won't be the first time ever you're going to be experiencing the train level like this. So, but obviously I did the main playthrough out the way first, and then obviously we'll hit on to the second, or the secret chapters during the forms of later on. So, yeah, to be expected. So, and also they did mention something related to the Elder Scrollers Online, and excuse me, and also Party Animals, and also Hades is about to come out on, well, I would say on other platforms here and there. Because remember last year they obviously did manage to release the game on not only for Windows, but also Mac OS and even Nintendo Switch. So now the Hades game, the most well-received game of all time, is now finally coming onto the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X, and well, S, as far as I want to pronounce that correctly. I do apologize for that tongue twisting in the end, folks. And also Somerville, and finally we got some info on the forms of Halo Infinite. So I'm sure that Halo fans will be super excited about this new entry in the series, and it's about to due out at some point by the end of this year in 2021. So, God knows, because this game will be, well, as far as the Halo series, as far as I'm concerned, the first Halo game was actually becoming like, you know, 20 years old for the sake of this year, since the one that started it all in terms of, well, specifically during the course of in the original Xbox. So, yeah, that'll keep Halo fans happy. So, at least that was actually the 6th entry in the main series, as opposed to, well, I remember playing Halo Reach, but I've never actually touched it since back in the day. But that's probably because, wow, I just have no idea why. I just purchased something related to, like, other things I was interested, which I absolutely have no idea. But, despite the forms of Halo Reach does manage to able to receive, well, some pretty good reviews. Like, really, really great reviews, actually. But, aside from that, I haven't touched that game since. Maybe it's because of the lack of online play I haven't got into. but that's how it goes basically. And also they've got Diablo 2 Resurrect, and also Plunger's Tale Aquarium, and Far Cry 6 again, and Slime Rancher 2, Autonic Heart, Replaced, Grounded, Among Us is actually now coming to the, for Among Us though, it does manage to receive a 15-player update, which, that seems kinda cool. And also, Elder Dawn Chronicle 100 Heroes, and say applies to the other game as well. But, one game is about to due out until likely, 2022, or something like that, and another game is about to come out until 2023. And I was like, jeez Louise, man. What's up with the actual release date time? But anyway, and as well as the Ascent and the sequel to the Outer Worlds, in this case, the Outer Worlds 2, and also we've got ourselves Redfall, and also Microsoft Flight Simulator, and also finally we actually got ourselves another sequel to Forza Horizon game, and that is Forza Horizon 5. And that is about to due out on, well, specifically, this year. So, at least expecting that was going to be released until November 9th this year. So, at least they were able to come out on Xbox One, obviously, and for the first time ever, Xbox Series X/S, and even Windows 10. And it's going to take place in Mexico. So, at least for what I've heard about that anyway. So yeah, that's actually a pretty good show, I'm not gonna lie. So now let's move on to the most disappointing presentations out of the way, and that will have to be starting with, of course, I will have to say that Square Enix, for the sake of the forms of this year's E3, is the weakness. It's actually, to me though, is one of the weakest presentations in my opinion. Although it is alright for certain games, for what I've seen so far. Like, I think the only good thing about this is that we actually get ourselves a remastered compilations of Final Fantasy games from the past, ranging from Final Fantasy 1 all the way up to Final Fantasy 6. So, at least there's something to look forward to. But aside from that, everything else though, it doesn't really interest me as much as the other things itself. Like, I was expecting the fact that the next Kingdom Hearts game will be on the horizon for the first time ever for the PlayStation 5 or something like that. But no, all we got in here is just a lot of like some other strange games. Like, for instance, they show us Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game, which is about to due out this year. And I'm gonna say, I wasn't really a big fan of the game. Mainly it's because I'm so used to watching the films, ranging from the first film and the second film, because those films are amazing. But as far as the game is concerned, maybe I'm just a bit too used to with the actual real actors in there. But that's probably just me anyway, so because of that, yeah, I'm probably not gonna get the game, honestly, because I'm more into the forms of the actual, the other version of Guardians of the Galaxy films, you know, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe series. I don't know, that's probably just me, and it might be biased, I suppose, so that's how it goes for me. Actually, I'll get into more details and other details later. So here we go, on to Story 4, Find the Exit. So, since that... oh, the exit is right at the beginning of the level, so that's pretty swell. Although, here's the thing though, we do need to activate the actual light switch in order to progress. So yeah, there's something... I can't speak today for this point, guys. I really do apologize for that. But, usually for the first story, along with this story, as you can see, the main emphasis on the stage is the fact that we need to turn on these light switches, as you can see one of them over there. And whenever the rooms is actually dark, basically it's the fact that we do need to activate the switches, so just in case you can able to see these platforms during the course of some sections of the levels. So, I'm quite surprised that we actually went for this particular chapter for like a quicker amount of time, even though it might still roughly took me about 40 minutes to complete, but hopefully I'll try my best to able to actually be as quick as possible, but again, we'll see what happens there. So anyway, and yeah, and there's also another info on Legend of Mona, which is alright, but at least they got ourselves an opening intro cutscene this time, which is pretty cool though. And also more info on Marvel's Adventures game, which actually details about the forms of the next expansion DLC thing, which I think it could be something related to Black Panther. So at least that's something. And also they received, also they announced Babylon's Fall. So I suppose that's strange, but I have no words to say. And also some more info on Life is Strange Remastered Collection, and also Life is Strange True Colors. So yeah, I wasn't really sure about that honestly, but anyway. And finally, they released or announced Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. So yeah, as far as the actual lineup of those games by Square Enix this year's E3, it's not the greatest to me though. It's definitely not the greatest. So yeah, I do apologize for that because of how the fact that, wow, I totally understand why that most people seem to have a lot of like mixed reactions to it. But aside from the fact that they did missing out on the Kingdom Hearts stuff, which to be expected because usually I've no words able to actually notice something like that. But anyway, and let's move on to the forms of the next presentation, which is PC Gaming Show. Not much right to home about, just mentioning about the forms of other games I wasn't interested into. Like, for instance, Citizen Sleeper, Dodgeball Arcadema, Dying Light 2 Stay Human, Far Changing Tides, and Giga Bash, Gloomwood, Icarus, and Albriella. I can't pronounce those names very well, I do apologize for that. Mega Jammer, and next Space Rebels, Project Warlock 2, War Tales, Vampire the Massacre Swamp Song, Tinykin, and also Sacrifier, and Songs of Conquest, and I'm sorry, I just completely skipped over a PC Gaming Show, to be honest with you, because there's not much else you can say about it. So anyways, let's move on to the next presentation, and that is Capcom. I was expecting if the next Mega Man game will be on there, which should be Buddy Forms of Mega Man 12, but instead we actually got ourselves some those other games that we already know about. Like for instance, that we actually got ourselves new information on Resident Evil Village, in this case Resident Evil 8, that's showing us the forms of, I would say some DLC is about to coming, so at least that's something to be looking forward to for those of you the Resident Evil fans out there. Will be expected to be excited about that. And also more info on Monster Hunter Tales 2 Wings of Ruin, so again, not much right to home about. And also Monster Hunter Rise for, I would say, more DLC stuff. And finally, the Great Ace Eternity Chronicles. And aside from that, that's it. No Street Fighter, no Mega Man game, and also not to mention, no returning Mega Man X game, which I know for a lot of people keep on requesting about Mega Man X9 to be on there, but because of how the fact that you know how bad Mega Man X6 and Mega Man X7 is poorly received due to the forms of the how bad these games are. But aside from that, I don't know if they might able to guarantee to do Mega Man X9 or X10 even, but at the very least, we still got Mega Man 11 at least, you know, with the classic traditional Mega Man style of game, so at least that's something I suppose. But aside from that, yeah, Capcom is just, well, meh, like literally meh to me. So aside from that, let's get into the forms of the most exciting thing out of them all, and that will have to be Buddy Forms of... Actually, I'll get into more on that later, because there's also another presentation that's been up, and that is something to do with, like, I would say, something like, Guerrilla Collective developers. Like, it's all gonna be focusing on PC stuff as well, so, like, for instance, they mentioned, Among Us, and also, Bats the game, Behind a Frame, and also Black Book, and blah 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 blah. I'm sorry, I don't really care about it too much though. But regardless of such though, let's move on. Let's just move on to the best for last. Well, as for this recording session anyway. So, on to Nintendo Direct for this year's E3. I will say, it is really good. Really good. So they start things off with the forms of the Super Smash Bros. Fighter, in this case DLC number 10, and it's something related to Tekken. So yeah, that just seems pretty cool. I was expecting if Crash Bandicoot would be on there, but unfortunately though, because how Crash Bandicoot was still on a part of Activision and stuff like that, so yeah, I really don't know if, well, we only got one character left, so at least expecting that will be coming until by the end of the year, so we're pretty much gone pretty dang close to able to actually done with the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, updates here and there. Well, I still really enjoyed the game. In fact, I might actually come back into that game at some point until, I would say for the next few days, until when the next DLC fighter is on its way. I think his name was Kazuya, which is based off from the Tekken series, which is a pretty cool fighter though, especially that we, at least that it's nothing related to that sword fighter again, thank God. Even though I could have wished if Sora would be on there, but because Sora was on the Disney game, I really don't know if Sora might able to make it or not, but we'll see what happens and join at some point by the end of the year, but fingers crossed though, fingers crossed. So anyway, so now we finished the level, and well, we only got one story left, and that will have to be, of course, the boss fight itself. So yeah, I'm quite surprised that this alternative chapter took about a bit of a quicker time. So anyway, let's see what number it is. So is it gonna be 7? Come on, give me any. Come on. Okay, good. It's a 7. Thank God it doesn't trick me like that, because if it does trick me, if I accidentally select 1, then basically I'll pretty much gonna have to redo the entire level again. And also, I'm pretty much almost low on coins, so hopefully we'll grab some more until eventually. But either way though, now let's go ahead and move on to the last story for Alternative Chapter 2, and that is Defeat the Cave Master. So, we might come across into a different boss fight, I see, so hopefully that should be the case, while avoiding those zombies coming from the ground. So, anyway, and the next thing they did announce in terms of, oh yeah, for that DLC fighter I mentioned earlier, that will come out until 28th of June, so it's about by the end of June. So yeah, it seems kind of weird how the fact that some of these DLC fighters managed to able to came out during the quite a few months or something. Like, I think, if I remember correctly, that Piranha Plant was in February, and I believe Joker was on April, and then Hero was on July, and Banjo and Kazooie was on September, and Terry Bogard is on November, and Byleth as in January, and I believe Min Min from June, so potentially, oh yeah, and Steve from October, so, and also Sephiroth from December, and Pyra and Mitha from March. So, and now we actually on to June, where we gonna have ourselves a Tekken fighter. So, I'm guessing that the 4th row of months is done. So, potentially that we might able to actually get ourselves the next fighter somewhere between, even though it's kind of hard to say right now, because either way, that it's only down to like 2 months, like 2 months left, which is oh, it's kind of hard to tell because I know my brain has gone a bit haywire all of a sudden. So in this case, it could be one for August or May, but I have no idea what the last character will be releasing in terms of month releases. But we'll have to wait and see. So and also they mentioned the actual presentation of Masahiro Sakurai mentions about the new fighter. It should be interesting. So, well, at least the actual stream, as far as I'm aware. Well, I just get confused by that point. I do apologize for that. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what that new fighter is going to be played out to be. So, yeah, that seems kind of cool. Even though it's kind of a shame that we didn't get Crash Bandicoot in Smash, but that's okay, because we only got one chance left until the entire game itself is pretty much completed. So, but anyway, also, they mentioned in Nintendo Direct is another mentioning when it comes to like Life is Strange and Life is Strange True Colors. Yes, now that game is now finally come out on the Switch. And also, they mentioned about another information on Guardians of the Galaxy also coming out to the Switch. And also, they mentioned another Worms game called Worms Rumble. That's alright. And also we've got Astro Ascending to Astro Ascending, and also 2 Point Campus. So yeah, that's alright. But now we get into the forms of the exciting parts. Or let's get to the actual some alright choices, like for me anyway. First of all, they mentioned more about Just Dance 2022, that's still coming. And also, Cruisin' Blast is now coming onto the Nintendo Switch. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Even though I don't know, I might not know if I was about to get the game yet in day one. Because at the moment, I'm pretty much almost running low in terms of my Nintendo Switch memory storage. But hopefully I will get around to that at some point. And also, they've now finally mentioned Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is now finally coming to the Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, that sure is exciting. Along with that, they'll also include some of these DLC expansion with it too. Even though it's kind of a shame that, you know, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot only sold for about 2 million copies worldwide, as in the forms of March last year. So it kind of sucks that the game didn't sell that well, and also the game receives pretty mixed reviews upon release. But I might be very curious to see how that's gonna turn out, but we'll have to wait and see until when the Switch version is coming out for it. So yeah, that's exciting. Oh, before we get into the forms of the continuation of Nintendo news related stuff, they also show off some more gameplay footage of Sonic Colors Ultimate, and well, I'm pretty excited about that. Especially noticeable how the fact that, well, usually depending on what specific footage they show off, I will say, it looks super gorgeous. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much about it. So, I'll discuss more details about other informations until specifically on Friday. But for now, let's go ahead and take on the next boss in the game, which appears to be the Cave Master. So basically, all we have to do is basically you have to shove him off 3 times of the arena. And that's all you really have to do. Although, keep that in mind, if you get knocked back by that particular, you know, the attack he's doing, basically, if you fell off the arena, then you're gonna have to start all over again. So, and he goes white and red almost like Ganon. Well, kind of almost like Ganon, but anyway. And basically, yeah, he's gonna have to wait. You have to watch out until when he does that, because otherwise, if he jumps, then otherwise you might. Oh my God, I might as well get screwed. Come on, break free, break free, break free. Come on, no. Oh God, that was so close, and that was actually kind of lucky too. Kind of think about it. But anyway, let's just go ahead and just finish him off like this, and boom, he's done. Pretty easy fight if you manage to get the hang of this though, and that pretty much concludes Alternative Chapter 2. Although upon completing that particular story, it'll pretty much resumes into your Chapter 3 knowledge, so even then though, yeah, to be expected by that point. So, or is it gonna be taking place in during the forms of, no, it's gonna take place in Chapter 4, I think. Is it? Well, I haven't really paid that much attention to the actual treasure map, so forgive me on that part. So, anyway, so that is number 1 indeed, and there's our another piece of the map, so we're literally on 35 pieces. So, yeah, we're almost done, folks. So I think suffice to say, oh wait, it's gonna take us into the, another alternative, oh wait, it's gonna take us in Chapter 3, yeah, I think I was... No, I might be wrong. I get confused. So anyways, I think we'll end things off here. So join me next time on Let's Play Wario Land 2, is that we'll take on another alternative chapter. So I'll see you guys on Friday. Later, fellas.